They always assume the INFJ is afraid of being alone. They mistake the quiet, the distance, the independence for loneliness. But what they never realize is this: INFJs don't fear solitude at all. They thrive in it. They rebuild in it. They find clarity in it. What they truly fear, what they avoid with every instinct they possess, is attaching themselves to the wrong person. Because the wrong attachment doesn't just drain an INFJ. It unravels them. It steals their energy, distorts their intuition, and buries their depth under someone else's chaos. And once an INFJ has lived through that once, they never walk blindly into connection again. When an INFJ withdraws, it's not rejection, it's protection. They've learned that not every hand reaching for them has good intentions, not every smile is sincere, and not every bond is meant to be kept. They don't fear being alone because solitude has never hurt them. People have. So they watch more closely. They choose more slowly. They reveal themselves only to those who feel safe, consistent, and emotionally honest. This is why some people get frustrated with them. It's not that the INFJ is distant. It's that the INFJ refuses to attach themselves to someone who will fracture their peace again. Before we go deeper, answer this honestly in the comments. Do you prefer being alone, or do you simply refuse to settle for the wrong people? If you made it here, type, "I choose carefully, so I know you're one of the few who understands this truth." And subscribe to Brainy Quiet Mind, because the next insight might explain a part of yourself you've never been able to put into words. INFJs are comfortable alone because solitude protects their emotional clarity. People often misread INFJs, assuming their quiet moments are signs of loneliness or isolation. But solitude is not a punishment for them. It is a sanctuary, a place where the noise of the world finally fades and their inner world becomes audible again. In solitude, their mind untangles the emotions they've absorbed from others. Their intuition sharpens. Their sense of self returns to focus. While most people fear being alone because it forces them to confront themselves, INFJs choose it because it allows them to reconnect with the parts of themselves that get buried beneath constant emotional input. Solitude becomes the one environment where they can hear the truth without distortion. INFJs move through life absorbing everything: tone shifts, unspoken needs, emotional friction, hidden motives. This constant intake can cloud their judgment if they don't retreat to recalibrate. Alone, they breathe differently. They think more clearly. Their insights deepen. They begin to see patterns that were previously blurred by noise. Solitude is where they refine their vision and rediscover their emotional balance. It's not emptiness, it's alignment. It's not loneliness, it's clarity. And the more they understand themselves in quiet, the more they understand the world when they step back into it. Most people don't realize that INFJs are never truly alone because their inner world is rich, alive, and endlessly complex. They have entire landscapes of imagination, intuition, and emotional understanding to explore, places far more meaningful than shallow conversations or forced social interactions. INFJs feel more drained in the wrong company than they ever will in silence. In solitude, they gain energy. In solitude, they recover from emotional overwhelm. In solitude, they come back to themselves after being stretched too thin by other people's needs and expectations. This comfort with being alone is exactly what makes INFJs so selective about who they allow in. They don't seek companionship to fill a void. They seek connection that enhances the peace they already built, not one that disrupts it. Solitude is their baseline, their grounding force, their emotional reset. Anyone who enters their life must bring a presence more nourishing than the quiet they cherish. And because wrong attachments threaten that clarity, the INFJ chooses solitude not as a fallback, but as a form of strength. The wrong attachment can drain them deeply, which makes them cautious. INFJs don't form superficial bonds. Every connection they make sinks beneath the surface, threading into their emotional and intuitive world. Because of this depth, the wrong attachment doesn't just disappoint them, it drains them. It pulls from their energy, blurs their inner clarity, and disrupts their sense of stability in ways others rarely notice. When an INFJ attaches to the wrong person, someone chaotic, manipulative, self-centered, or emotionally inconsistent, they don't simply feel irritated or frustrated. They feel depleted. Their empathy becomes a magnet for the other person's needs. Their intuition becomes clouded by emotional noise. Their boundaries erode slowly, leaving them carrying weight that was never theirs to carry. This level of emotional exhaustion is why INFJs approach new connections with quiet caution. The INFJ learns early in life that not everyone who reaches for them comes with good intentions. Some come because they want the comfort the INFJ provides. Some come because they crave the validation they can extract. Some come because the INFJ listens, absorbs, and forgives. But few offer the same depth in return. And once an INFJ has experienced the cost of giving their heart to the wrong person, they never forget the toll. The energy they lose in these dynamics takes far longer to rebuild than anyone realizes. They become more discerning, not out of fear, but out of necessity. They refuse to pour themselves into someone who only knows how to take. This caution is often misunderstood. People may think the INFJ is distant, guarded, or uninterested. But in truth, the INFJ is evaluating whether a connection will nourish them or slowly dismantle their well-being. They watch how people treat others. They observe emotional consistency. They sense authenticity. They measure intentions not by words, but by patterns. And if something feels off, if there's a hint of manipulation, emotional instability, or hidden motives, the INFJ steps back long before attachment takes root. The wrong attachment doesn't just occupy space in an INFJ's life, it disrupts their entire inner ecosystem. It drains creativity, intuition, peace, and emotional resilience. This is why they choose carefully. This is why they walk slowly toward connection. And this is why they would rather be alone than bound to someone who empties them. For an INFJ, protecting their energy isn't self-preservation, it's survival. They sense hidden intentions early, so they withdraw before bonds become harmful. INFJs rarely need someone to reveal their true character with words. They feel it long before anything is spoken. Their intuition is a quiet alarm system, picking up on subtle cues, hesitations in speech, inconsistencies in stories, emotional undercurrents that contradict surface behavior. While others fall for charm, confidence, or charisma, the INFJ listens to the energy beneath it. And when something feels off, even slightly, they register it instantly. A hint of manipulation, a trace of self-interest, a subtle hunger for validation, a quiet, emotional imbalance. The INFJ senses these things long before they have evidence, and this early awareness is what protects them from forming bonds that later become destructive. Because they pick up on intentions so quickly, their withdrawal often looks sudden or unexplained to others. But inside the INFJ, the decision is anything but impulsive. They've already felt the emotional mismatch, the hidden agenda, or the unstable foundation beneath the interaction. Their intuition highlights the danger. This connection will cost you. And INFJs, having learned the cost of ignoring those signals, quietly step away before the attachment has time to settle. They don't need confrontation. They don't need explanations. Their silence is not avoidance, it is self-preservation. Others may misinterpret this as coldness or inconsistency, but the truth is far more complex. INFJs read people on a level that bypasses logic. They see the shape of someone's intentions before those intentions fully unfold. They notice whether a person is drawn to them out of genuine connection or out of emotional hunger. They sense when someone is attracted to their empathy rather than their soul. They feel when someone's interest carries expectations or hidden demands. And because INFJs know how deeply they give, they cannot risk giving to the wrong person. What many never understand is that INFJs withdraw, not because they fear intimacy, but because they respect its weight. They know that once they attach with their entire emotional being. They know that once they love fiercely. They know that once they invest completely. So they guard the entry point with precision. They choose who gets close, not based on surface charm, but on energetic truth. And when that truth warns them, they walk away early, long before the damage can begin. Their intuition is their compass, and withdrawal is the shield that keeps their inner world safe. They fear losing themselves in relationships that demand too much and give too little. INFJs love with a depth that is rare, and because of that depth, they know exactly how dangerous the wrong relationship can be. They've lived through connections where they gave more than they ever received, where they offered understanding but received confusion, where they gave stability but received chaos, where they poured empathy into someone who only knew how to take. And when an INFJ gives too much for too long, something inside them begins to fade. Their intuition becomes clouded. Their creativity dims. Their sense of self thins out beneath the weight of someone else's emotional needs. This erosion is what they fear far more than loneliness. The slow, quiet disappearance of their own identity inside a relationship that drains them without giving anything back. INFJs can disappear into another person if they aren't careful. Their empathy makes it easy to prioritize someone else's happiness over their own. Their nurturing nature makes it natural to carry burdens that were never theirs to begin with. Their desire for harmony makes them compromise more than is healthy. And their intuition, though powerful, can be overridden when their heart becomes too involved. This combination is beautiful, but it is also dangerous. Because when the wrong person enters an INFJ's world, they can consume the INFJ's emotional landscape without ever realizing the damage they are causing. And the INFJ, always trying to heal, always trying to fix, always trying to understand, doesn't notice the cost until they are already drowning. This is why INFJs are cautious with attachments. They know the warning signs now. Relationships where they feel responsible for someone's emotional stability, where they silence their own needs to avoid conflict, where their empathy becomes fuel for someone else's emptiness. They know how quickly they can lose themselves when the connection becomes unbalanced. They remember the exhaustion of giving endlessly while receiving almost nothing. They remember the confusion of trying to understand someone who never tried to understand them. They remember the moment they realized they had become a shadow of themselves. INFJs don't fear love, they fear erasure. They fear becoming background characters in their own life. They fear waking up one day and realizing their identity was traded for someone else's needs. And so, they stay selective, protective, and slow to attach. Not because they are cold or distant, but because they are finally honoring the truth. They cannot afford to lose themselves again. They open up slowly because trust takes time, not pressure. INFJs do not reveal themselves quickly, and it has nothing to do with shyness or emotional distance. It is because they understand the weight of opening their inner world to someone. Their thoughts are layered, their emotions are deep, and their intuition sees far beneath the surface. Letting someone into that depth is not a casual act, it is a sacred one. They open up slowly because they know that genuine trust cannot be rushed, demanded, or forced into existence. Trust, for an INFJ, is built through consistency, emotional honesty, and the quiet reassurance that the other person is safe enough to hold what they reveal. When someone tries to push them to open up faster, they don't respond with closeness, they respond with caution. Pressure makes them retreat, not unfold. This slow opening is not a test. It is protection shaped by experience. INFJs have been vulnerable before with people who mishandled their truth, misunderstood their emotions, or used their openness as leverage. They learned that the wrong person will turn their honesty into weakness, their empathy into responsibility, and their depth into something to exploit. So now they reveal themselves like a book, opened one page at a time, only when the reader has shown they can handle the story. They watch how someone responds to small pieces of their truth. They observe whether the other person listens without judgment, reacts without defensiveness, and respects boundaries without complaint. Every interaction becomes part of the blueprint their intuition uses to determine whether the connection is safe to deepen. What many never realize is that INFJs are already studying someone long before they speak their truth. They are feeling the emotional temperature, sensing the intentions, and reading the patterns. They don't need grand gestures, they need authenticity. They don't need promises, they need consistency. And when someone shows up with patience instead of pressure, honesty instead of performance, presence instead of demands, the INFJ gently begins to unlock the door to their inner world. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, sincerely, and with a depth that few people ever get to witness. And when they finally trust, they trust with their whole being. Their loyalty becomes unwavering. Their emotional presence becomes transformative. Their insight becomes intimate. They offer a kind of connection so rare that most people never experience it in their lifetime. That is why they take their time. That is why they open slowly. Because once they let someone in, it is not temporary. It is wholehearted. Trust for an INFJ is not a moment. It is a bond. They value emotional depth, making shallow or chaotic connections unbearable. INFJs move through the world with an emotional depth that most people never touch within themselves. They don't just feel, they immerse. They don't just listen, they absorb. They don't just connect, they merge energy, meaning, and emotional truth. Because of this, shallow connections feel suffocating to them. Small talk drains them. Relationships built on convenience bore them. Interactions without sincerity feel like noise that disrupts their emotional frequency. What they crave, what they require, is depth. Conversations that reveal the soul, connections rooted in authenticity, a presence that feels steady rather than chaotic. Anything less than that feels hollow, unstable, and painfully misaligned with who they are at their core. Chaotic connections are even more unbearable. INFJs sense emotional turbulence the way others sense changes in weather. They can feel when someone is inconsistent, when their intentions shift, when their inner world is unresolved and spilling outward. Chaos absorbs space, mental, emotional, and energetic, and the INFJ feels that weight immediately. They know when they are being pulled into someone else's emotional storm, and they know how quickly it can drown their own clarity. Past experiences have taught them that chaotic relationships do not get better with effort. They only consume more of the INFJ's empathy until there is nothing left to give. So now, they step back the moment the emotional tone feels unstable, long before the bond can tighten around them. What many misunderstand is that INFJs are not too sensitive, they are too aware. They see the long-term consequences of shallow or chaotic attachments long before others do. They know that a relationship without depth cannot sustain their soul. They know that emotional chaos will eventually distort their own inner peace. And because they value harmony more than excitement, sincerity more than performance, meaning more than attention, they protect themselves with precision. They have no interest in relationships that stay on the surface, no patience for connections driven by ego, and no tolerance for emotional unpredictability masquerading as passion. For the INFJ, a connection must feel grounding, not draining. Expansive, not confusing. Genuine, not decorative. When they find someone capable of meeting them at that depth, their whole being opens in a way that feels like coming home. But when the connection is shallow or chaotic, they retreat instantly, not because they fear closeness, but because they refuse to lose themselves in emptiness or emotional storms ever again. Their boundaries are born from experience, not fear, and protect their inner world. INFJs do not build boundaries out of panic or distrust. They build them because life has taught them what happens when they do not. Their softness was once unguarded. Their empathy was once unlimited. Their heart was once open to anyone who knocked gently enough. But experience changed that. Not in a dramatic, heartbreaking explosion, rather through 1,000 small lessons. The moments they gave too much. The times they explained themselves to someone who had no intention of understanding. The quiet exhaustion of carrying emotional weight that was never theirs to hold. Eventually, they realized that without boundaries, their inner world would always be vulnerable to people who took more than they gave. Their boundaries are not walls. They are not sharp. They are not hostile. They are crafted with intention, clarity, and a deep respect for their own emotional ecosystem. INFJs learned that their peace is not disposable, that their time is not infinite, that their empathy is powerful but not indestructible. And most importantly, they learned that some people interpret kindness as permission. Permission to push, to take, to drain, to demand without offering reciprocation. So now, they draw lines not to keep people out, but to keep their own spirit intact. Their boundaries are a quiet promise to themselves. I will not shrink, bend, or shatter for anyone again. What makes INFJ boundaries so misunderstood is their subtlety. They don't raise their voice. They don't make dramatic announcements. They don't punish or retaliate. They simply adjust the distance. They share less. They respond slower. They stop explaining. They reclaim their energy piece by piece until their world becomes balanced again. Others notice the shift, often feeling threatened or confused, because the INFJ's withdrawal exposes who truly valued them and who only valued the access. But inside, the INFJ feels lighter, steadier, more aligned. Their boundaries are a form of emotional architecture, preserving the depth, intuition, and compassion that define them. They know their inner world is a rare place, quiet, rich, and profoundly sensitive. Not everyone deserves entry. Not everyone should be allowed to influence it. And certainly not everyone has earned the right to stay. Their boundaries are wisdom in action, not fear in disguise. They protect what makes them extraordinary. They protect the clarity that guides them. And above all, they protect the INFJ from becoming a version of themselves shaped by the demands of others rather than by the truth of who they really are. When an INFJ finally understands that protecting their inner world is not selfish but necessary, everything in their life becomes sharper, calmer, and more intentional. They stop giving energy to chaos. They stop explaining themselves to people who never listened. And slowly, they build a reality where their peace is no longer negotiable. That shift may look quiet from the outside, but inside, it's a complete transformation, the kind that changes who they allow close, how they love, and what they tolerate. If this part of the INFJ journey resonates with you, stay with this channel. There's so much more ahead. The patterns people don't see, the strengths INFJs hide, and the silent awakenings that reshape their lives forever. And if you leave now, you'll miss the insights that finally explain why you feel everything so deeply, and why that depth is your greatest power. Before you go, tell me in the comments, what boundary did you learn the hard way? Write the word strong if this spoke to you. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next chapter.